Hello, and welcome to the very first episode of Rewired. I am Jaye Anne, and my co-host Matt is here with me. Say hi.
Hello.
I do not know how to start an intro any other way. I'm sorry. It's autopilot at this point.
Oh, this sounds a little like feminine alchemy all of a sudden.
It is. Just bam, all autopilot. But what we are doing a brand new podcast, and some of you may know me from Feminine Alchemy, and you might know Matt from all of their other travels in the world, in the online world, right? But this is our very first time working together in an audio format, so I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, me too. I mean, you could say it's the first time working together, but like we literally record every conversation that we have. They're just stored away,
That's true.
right? Like this will be the first time that we've worked together online and actually shared it with other people. So,
Yep, that's
should be
true.
interesting.
Although you were on Feminine Alchemy one time.
I was, and you were on my podcast, but we never we never released your
That
episode,
was
did we?
another unshared recording we've done. That's all
Another
that
unshared
is.
recording because I just basically, um, I had all these recordings and then I burn out
Mm-hmm.
and I just stopped doing the
You
podcast.
just
Like
stopped,
I just
which
quit.
happens. It
Yeah.
happens. You get
And
burned
now
out,
and
and you
now
go,
some of those episodes I'm just like, I don't know. Like I'm in a different place. I don't want to put that out.
mm-hmm. Oh yeah, oh yeah. I've been there. I have so much unaired recordings. There's no shame in it. We should probably tell the people who we are if they don't know a little something about our backgrounds and how we got here and what this podcast is even about.
Okay.
Go
You want
for
me
it.
to start?
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. So let's see what today's version of this story comes out like. Um, so I have led, I guess it depends on how you look at the number of lives a person has led within a single life.
Yep.
Um, how do you count? But like, I guess if you look across time, I have an interesting story of always being a very spiritual person, but now in two completely different contexts that most people would say just don't even remotely go together. Although I would also argue that point maybe a little bit too. Um, but also, like, in addition to being that kind of person, I'm also like this crazy geek technologist who like has been doing computer programming since I was 7 years old and made a professional career that's now over 25 years doing that work. And like for me, it's like literally being different people. Like I can't I felt like I could not be the technologist in the spiritual space and I could not be the spiritual person in the technology space. Like that was just I don't know, maybe it was me projecting and that's what was coming back at me. But like you just those didn't coexist. And yet here I am. And these things are coexisting in my head. And it's like, okay, well, how do you manage that? Um, you basically give yourself a split personality and then you're constantly code switching all the time and masking all the time. Um, have I mentioned that I'm also autistic and ADHD? So I'm also masking all the time, although I'm tired of it. Like I'm getting to the point where I'm just like not masking anymore. And if people don't like it, then I'm sorry. You're just gonna have to be uncomfortable around me. But yeah, like so there's that aspect that's like I'm finally reaching this point of saying, can we curse on this podcast? Okay, we can curse on this podcast. Good. I didn't know if
I
this was
think
gonna
that's
be
I think I kind of like warned people because people have asked me about it already. And I'm like,
about
well,
this
you
one.
might, yes.
Because
Yes.
y'all are your language is very clean on
I
feminine
have to be,
alchemy.
yeah, because Feminine Alchemy has a large Mormon following.
This
So
is
I'm,
okay. So
yeah,
so so we're going after people who are okay with cursing.
I think so. I
All right.
think so.
Good,
Because
because
I think eventually the gloves would come off for you, the end.
well,
And probably
I
for
would
me
be
too.
masking.
Exactly.
I would be
That's why.
masking on my own podcast, and I don't wanna do that. So yeah, I don't even remember what I was gonna curse about. But I was gonna curse. Fuck.
I think you were gonna say I'm
Um,
so effing done with masking.
and yeah, fuck it. Not gonna do that anymore. But yeah, like there was this so back to the original like multiple personalities of like this idea of being spiritual but in two different communities. Like I grew up Southern Baptist and it was not the Southern Baptist of my adult years. Like it felt a lot more like I mean, we're from Appalachia, right? So like there's just a lot of folk um tradition that's just weaved unconsciously into all religion, especially in that region. And so like a lot of what I picked up growing up, was not quote unquote orthodox, but it was still very like, held very tight by the people who practiced that way. And so yeah, I felt like I grew up in sort of a folk Christianity, but then I went to like, one of the motherships of like the evangelical church in Memphis, and went hardcore like um I mean, I wouldn't say all the way fundamentalist, but pretty fucking fundamentalist. And like I became a street evangelist. Like I knocked on doors. I walked up and down Beale Street talking to people who were drinking and trying to get them to come to Jesus. And again, like it's very difficult for me to put myself in the headspace that I was in when I was doing that because it feels so foreign now. Because like I completely like left all of that behind, gone. Um and then I became a witch. And it's like and even that has been this crazy journey because like you say, "Oh, I'm a witch," and that like opens up this whole like, well, what kind of a witch are you? Um, and as it turns out, like there's probably as many different kinds of witches as there are people who claim to be witches. Um, so yeah, we can break that down at another time, but like suffice to say, like, okay, so I went from being an ultra evangelical Christian to practicing witchcraft, and I'm also a software engineer and architect who works professionally with AI all day every day, and I'm integrating all of that shit into like one identity right now as opposed to like continuing to try to flip hats all the time. And yeah, um this is the next step in that evolution because I started a deconstruction oriented podcast not long, it was feels like a long time ago. It was like 2023 late, maybe early 2024, I don't know. And yeah, I kind of, again, set that aside when I was, like, pouring myself into learning this new spiritual practice. But then when I asked you about doing a podcast, the first word out of your mouth was deconstruction. I was like, "Huh, what would it be like to go back to that conversation now?" And, like, stuff just started flooding in, so I'm here for it. Cool. That's enough of me rambling about me. How about you?
It's so good. It's so good. Yeah, I love so many things you said, and I wanna, like, jump in on those, but I'm gonna go back in time to the
Stay focused.
90s.
Stay focused.
Stay focused. That's a tricky wicket in this
You're going back to
in
the
these
'90s? I love the
conversations.
'90s.
I loved the 90s because there were Power Rangers and there were Gushers had just come out and the internet sounded like that whole noise.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
would
Oh, yeah. Oh,
beg,
yeah.
like, because okay, I'll tell you this little story before we keep going. My parents refused to pay money for internet service ever. So
Did they use net zero?
they tried that, but even that was too expensive. No, we had the Kmart blue light special internet. No joke.
That
Kmart made
existed?
an
I didn't even
internet.
know that, and I worked at Kmart. Did you know I
It
worked at Kmart?
no.
Yeah, I worked at Kmart in electronics,
How stereotypical of you
right?
from how you grew up
But then they then they
and
then they let me go, but then they called me back and put me in men's apparel. So
oh
so
my gosh.
I was in men's apparel at Kmart for a couple of months too.
That's
Like, I
silly.
got all kinds of Kmart stories.
Kmart store, yeah, and so we never went to Kmart because there wasn't one near us, it was
Oh
pretty
my
far.
god, we lived at Kmart, like,
We went to Walmart a lot, but we didn't have a Kmart, and yeah, but I didn't know anything about this blue light special concept, and so when they came out with their own internet for a hot blip that never once worked, it didn't work, but yeah, I would always, like, listen to that noise and, like, get to the gurgly sound and be like, please work, please," and it never worked, not
so was there,
once.
like, the blue light in the store and you ran there's, like, a basket of CDs or some shit?
Right, that's the trope, I learned that later, right?
Oh, so you had blue light special internet, but you didn't know what a blue light special was.
No clue what that was. My
Okay.
mom knew, but I had no clue. Yeah, I had
Like,
no clue.
I literally was working in the store and you would hear, like, "Blue light special in whatever department," and there was literally a blue light, just, like, flashing,
Cracks me up.
and there was, like, yeah, it was like doorbusters now on, like, Black Friday, except, there was one bin of whatever the blue light special was, and they moved the light around to different it was ridiculous.
And it was always a different day. It wasn't like
And
you
I
knew
had
when
this
it was gonna
cute red
happen.
smock that I had to wear, like, the
And they had
dress
layaway.
code the
You remember
dress
layaway?
code Hmm?
Yeah. You remember layaway?
Oh, yeah. I
Pay
definitely had shit
10%
on
down,
layaway as a kid.
come back in, and it was
Yeah. Yeah.
the
Yeah.
original version of, Afterpay, right? Well, that's what the kids are doing these
Right.
days. Yeah.
Right, except, like, you could like, you're like, do you remember layaway when, like, your physical thing that you were buying was sitting in the layaway room?
Right. Yeah.
Right,
I was
like,
too
it's like,
young.
"Hey, I wanna
Like
put this
mhm,
physical box on layaway."
mhm.
Eventually, that became, like, a logical thing,
Yeah.
where, like, yeah, you were in the system as having this but, I didn't trust that 'cause I don't wanna my where's my can I see it? I'm gonna come
Mhm.
visit my purchase.
Visit. Oh my gosh. So funny. So, yeah, I grew up in the '90s, and, that was I was 12 trying to get on the internet, and I just wanted to IM my friends, man, that's all it was, and look up, Beanie Babies. That was my debauchery on the internet. So but I grew up non-denominational, uh, what they called non-denominational, Bible-believing, charismatic Christian. We're not evangelicals, though. That was the thing, except that we did all the evangelical stuff. We just refused the label.
That's very interesting.
Hmm. So we did things like dancing in the spirit. There was a who would bring in flags and play that and fly flags in the worship service.
See, we need
One
to
guy
do
would
that fun
just
stuff.
we did all of the
We were
craziest
into
stuff.
stuffy, like, you don't move or speak or make a sound in church.
Oh my gosh. There was a guy who would just get up and just start running laps around the service in the middle of
See, that would've been great for a little undiagnosed autistic me.
That's a good maybe that was his deal.
So you're saying that most no, we're not gonna make a blanket statement, but there is a possibility that there is a higher segment of neurodivergent population in charismatic denominations potentially.
It's probably true because I
Maybe it
think
feels
we've
safe there? I don't know.
had that conversation around people who are highly intuitive and doing witchy things tend
Oh,
to
yeah.
have a higher population of neurodivergence. So it's possible because the stuff that we were doing in that church is literally like I've gone to other secular witchy things and like a lot of the stuff we were doing was just pretty much one for one, but of course because it's other, it's evil, whatever. But yeah, and we had this is I just remembered this because I had like forgotten about this for years. We would have a part they would like sing like 3 or 4 songs and then there would be a spiritual jam session towards in the middle of worship. And so it would just be like the the drummer would just be like going and the guy on the keyboard would be just doing a bunch of chords and then the whole audience is just vocalizing and singing in tongues and yeah, all of that.
Yes. Yes.
And
Yeah,
then
I've
it would
never
get
gotten to do that. I've never actually been in a proper charismatic church before. I've only ever seen it on TV.
oh my gosh. Yeah. That's what I thought was normal. There were times where I thought I was gonna go to church and just get abducted by aliens, because it's like, why not? Already doing this?
I mean,
Why
I
not?
was fully in on alien abduction as a child. I wanted to be rescued.
That was my thought process. I was like, if I stand under this can light, maybe they'll just beam me up. I don't know
This is
why
the
I thought
beam
that.
right here.
This is the one. And then I stood under it and nothing happened, and I was really sad about that. I'm like, shoot,
Yeah,
I gotta keep doing
I
whatever
just
this
kept
is.
wondering, like, why are you not coming to get me? What's wrong? What did I do?
Oh man, this life is a little weird. I don't know about this. This is
So I think
not
we're
what I thought
saying
I signed
that
up
the
for.
weirdo population and the neurodivergent population has a high degree of overlap, regardless of what brand of weirdo we're talking about.
Correct. I believe so. It's not like the church was telling me there were aliens coming to get me. I'd made that up.
But
But
did
for
you?
some reason, I believed that the portal was in church.
But did you really make it up,
It's a great
or
question.
was it just there?
It could have been just there. Yeah.
Right? Right?
Mhm.
Right? Like I the more shit that I read about people's actual experiences that I'm just like, okay, well, there's nothing to be gained from making this up other than ridicule. So why would you why would you publish this? And I'm just like, oh,
Yeah.
well, okay, I just don't know what reality even is anymore. Which is cool because that means you can make it up as you go along.
Mhm.
But
Absolutely.
I keep interrupting your story because I don't know how to not do that. I'm sorry. So
It's okay.
keep going. You were so respectful and quiet while I was speaking, and I have not given you the same courtesy.
I really enjoy the reaction to the chaos of the church that I grew up in, though. It's very fun.
Excellent.
Because that is not something that a lot of people like, I assumed it was everybody, but I was apparently a very small piece of the population who grew up that way. So, there's that. I was homeschooled, and then I went to in the middle of 4th grade, I went into the Christian school that was connected to our church. So I
Mm.
fully grew up inside of a very enclosed environment until I went to high school. And, I went to youth group starting in 7th grade. So because I was going to school at the church and then we went to youth group, I was in church like 6 days a week. No joke.
Yeah,
No joke. And the curriculum they used was called a Becca, which is, again, we're looking at history and science from a Christian
that
perspective.
sounds super familiar.
It is the most common Christian school curriculum.
I wonder if I don't know. I was also a Christian school parent. I never went
Uh-huh.
to Christian school, but I was a Christian school parent for, uh, a long fucking time. Like, my youngest started kindergarten in Christian school, and my oldest and my youngest left as a s I think he finished his sophomore year,
Yeah.
and is
Yeah, all the
doing
way
his
through high
last 2
school for
years
some
in
of
public
them.
school.
Wow.
So, like, and they're 4 years apart. So, yeah, I was in almost 20 years I'm around this
Mhm.
Christian school environment, and I got
Mhm.
stories, man. I got so many stories,
We're gonna tell them
because
here, I
I
tell
was
you what.
done with it long before they got out,
Yeah.
but their mother was not, and
Yeah.
that's a whole other conversation for another day, but, like, yeah, I know what you mean by closed environment because, like, when my kids got out of that environment and went to university, it was like, "Oh my god." Like, there's this whole world out here that's, a billion, and granted, it's not like they were not insulated from pop culture. Like, they still listened to all the same music that everybody else did. They still got into all this, but culturally, it was still an insulated, like, you only knew other people who were experiencing all that through the same lenses that you grew up with. And so it's like all of a sudden they're around all these people who did not have that experience. And it's like, whoa. Now they've flourished in that, but some kids do not do well. They completely freak out.
Yeah, and I had a huge overwhelm by the sheer number of humans that I was suddenly in contact with when I went to high school.
Okay.
So I went to public high school and I went from a class of actually 6 people in my entire grade to, yeah,
6.
350. Yeah.
6 to 350.
It was
And
a
350 was like that was the size of my graduating class as well,
mhm.
but we were, like, considered small.
Yes. Yes, for my area, like, the people I went, because we had to drive, like, half an hour each way minimum in, like, DC area traffic to get to the school, and, so all of my friends in that school, when we all graduated in 8th grade, they all went to totally different schools, and so everybody who went to other schools in the area, they had 1,000 kids in their class minimum.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it didn't affect them the same way it affected me because I'm just a very, like, absorptive person, and it was like, "Whoa, guys, I have no idea what's happening." And I just was like, it was, like, almost traumatic to have that many people in my immediate vicinity walking through crowds, like, that wasn't a thing. I knew everybody, from kindergarten through 8th grade, I knew every single kid. And if a new kid
Mm.
showed up in kindergarten, the new kid showed up in 1st grade, I knew who that kid was. And then to go, like, I don't know everybody who's my same age was like, I have to, like, pretend like half of them don't even exist just to
Yeah.
survive.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
So I ended up being friends with all the Mormons because they were the most like me.
I mean, fair enough.
Yeah. So it was, like, really a big shock. Um, yeah, to do
So,
that.
is that the time so were you leaving the church environment at the same time that you were going to the public high school, or was that a longer shift?
No, I was still going to youth group and church every week. And then about junior year, and they say that this happens to a lot of kids in youth group. It's about junior year. You just school and friends at school become more important,
Right.
and you kind of drop off. Um, but I kept going until after junior year is when I literally just like could not anymore. And of course, we went on missions trips right over the summers, and there was one we went on after my 10th grade year. So this was like it was 2002, so it was the year after 9/11. And we went to Mexico, and actually we had a fabulous time. And I actually felt like I was doing stuff, like we dug ditches to help build electrical for a church, and I was like in
Yeah.
the mountains and seeing how people live, and like that was really powerful. But then the next year, and we only had like 11 people go that year. And the next year we went to the Bahamas, and we had 27 people go, and it was like terrible. The whole trip was awful because I felt like we weren't doing anything. I was doing what you were talking about doing. We were trying to do street evangelism to drunk people, and I'm a teenager. Like, first of all, no one's listening to me. Second of all, why am I in that environment? Why are you
Yeah.
actively
Right.
putting teenagers and younger in that environment? So, and third of all, like there was a lot of weird stuff going on with some of the people we were there with. Like not like the other groups, like people from our church. Like some of the kids were like one girl was like suddenly decided to be anorexic while we were there, and so she was like fainting all the time. I got sick because I couldn't like the water there is potable, but I didn't like the
Right.
taste of it. And everyone also, it was like a whole thing. And at the same time, like my parents were getting divorced, so I was like, I'm gonna not with any of this. And I just stopped going to church after that summer, and it was my senior year, and so I just didn't at all. And they were like, "Where did you go?" And I was like, we're not talking about this. I just didn't even bother. So,
So you just Irish goodbye.
kind of. I mean, I have a strong Irish bloodline. So
I mean, that's what I
that was
did.
that.
That's what I did. Um,
You just quit trying.
well, one day, so, the pastor of the church at the time, he actually just died,
Mm,
this year. I can't remember from what. I was not the least bit sad. Um, but there was a morning that, like, he would get on these rants. And, there was a morning where I don't even remember what he was talking about, but he starts railing on about atheists and how they're all sexual deviants.
okay.
Like, all atheists are sexual deviants, and I was just
um,
that's not even a like, that's
sorry.
not only is that just terrible thing to say, but, like, you're just you have no argument.
There's so
You're
much
just
to
being a
unpack there. Like,
you're
there's
just
no
being a jerk.
specificity. Yeah.
Um
Yeah.
And that wasn't the first time that he did something that put me off, but that was the last time he
Mm,
did something that put me off in front of me.
yeah.
Because I never went back. I mean, I was
Yeah.
all like, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. Like, I was already kinda done with it, but, I was still showing up because I was, trying to keep a already at the end of its rope marriage from falling apart
Mm.
completely, which, as it turns out, doesn't work.
Does not work. Mhm.
Um, like it just doesn't work. But, yeah, like, I just never showed up again. As far as I know, I'm still on the roll unless they actually like, churches don't tend to purge their rolls.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I was still getting email from them until I finally figured out how to, like, stop that. Um
Wow.
And of course, I did go to another church with them for a while after because the ostensible reason that we stopped going to that because of distance, like, it was like 40 minutes away. But when we started going there, lived a lot closer. Um, so I would go to this other church locally that was, I mean, it was mostly harmless. It was I used to call it the Jesus party because it really like it was in like an arena style setup, and everything was painted black, and it was like lit with like concert lighting, and they had like a full rock band with a praise chorus and all, and like it was a
Oh
party.
yeah. Oh yeah.
And they were a multi-campus situation, and so half the time the guy preaching wasn't actually there. He was somewhere
Yep.
else, and there was like a screen, but he was projected like full size, like he's walking around on the stage, except he like it was a whole spectacle. And so honestly, I kind of enjoyed just watching the spectacle. So it didn't bother me that much that I was there. It was more entertainment for me. But
Mhm.
now on Sunday morning we do this.
How we do this? That's right. Yeah. It was hard to unwind some of the belief systems I was taught because I was taught it at such a young age, right? And they specifically do that on purpose, right?
Oh
Was
yeah.
about that verse, like train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. That is like that phrase is ingrained in my head in the first place. First of all, that's weird. Brainwashing children is part of our lifestyle. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
So it took me a really long time to pull a lot of that stuff out, even though I wasn't going to church anymore. And I really stopped in the end of 11th grade, but I was going to other churches with my mom. Like she started because okay, at that time there was also a schism inside the church. And
Oh, I love a good church schism.
you gotta love a good church schism. The guy who started the church in the 70s had was retiring, and so they had some counsel to figure out who's the next pastor. And instead of choosing the long-standing pastor that everybody thought was going to go to, they chose the new guy.
Oh no.
And that was a bad plan because then he ended up, you know, doing some not so good things after that, um, which eventually caused the church to like completely go under. Now it's a Korean church. But that did not go well, and nobody was happy about that decision, and it caused a lot of like half the population to just leave. Um, and at that time, like you, it was a 40-minute drive each way. So my mom was like, we're not going to this place anymore. And so we started going to a church and a movie theater, which that was cool. But
I never did
um
that one, although I think there's at least I don't know if they're still around, but there were definitely some around here for a
it was
while.
a cool thing. It was a smart decision made by movie theaters when people really weren't going to the movies anymore, and Sunday morning isn't like a movie time anyways.
Right
So it
on.
was like a really good thing to do to rent it out to a church. It makes so much sense. It's a huge place. Yeah.
Now
And they would
now
have like
now 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 most of them are in these startups seem to be in high schools.
usually in high
Like, they'll
schools,
do high
yeah.
school theaters or gymnasiums or stuff like that.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, but that was the time I was just like, I'm gonna put a pin in it." And the real nail in the coffin was, I had gone to Virginia Tech, right? And I transferred out of Virginia Tech, and then there was the tech shooting. And that very weekend, I went home because I was like, I want to feel better or whatever because it was like terrifying. And I go to church with my mom because I'm looking for answers. This guy literally did a sermon on money that weekend. That very weekend was like, "Hey, you should give more money to the church. We're trying to do this. We're trying to do this. Give more money, give more money." And I was like, I went up to somebody later and I was like, "Why would we have this sermon after like this huge like people are looking for answers?" She's like, "Well, sometimes she said something like Jesus sometimes speaks the whole sermon to one person and maybe one person needed to hear that. But it wasn't, it just wasn't you." And I was like, "Nope, I'm done. That's it."
That seems awfully limiting of God.
It does, doesn't it?
Like, it seems like if God wanted to talk to everybody in the room, God could if God was God. What do
Mhm.
you say to that?
Yeah. And every time I had gone to this church before that, it was a money sermon. This guy was, like, harping on it.
It's like every time Jesus lets you down, they say, "Well, God works in mysterious ways."
Every time. Mysterious.
Only when
Mysterious.
they let you
Well,
down. Like, it's not mysterious when you get what you want.
and I think it would be more, like, reasonable if there wasn't all this limitation on how God is allowed to talk to you. Because if you have exposure to lots of different things, you're more likely to actually achieve the thing that you want. But when you are narrowed down to be like, oh, you only can see things from a specific coming in your experience in a certain way, it has to look like this, then you start to go and get um be unable to like get what you actually need. And then it's like, oh, God works in mysterious ways. Well, hello, you're blocking off all of the ways that God could work if by with very human ideals. And I that's the part where I can't even get behind.
Well, like, in that particular situation, like, it's never about actually getting people what they need. It's about making people
No,
easier to control,
correct.
right?
Yeah.
If you can control the ways people are allowed to hear from God,
Yep.
then it's not a long stretch before you can, like, make yourself God.
Yep.
Um,
Exactly.
I always found it odd that there was this concept of, like, celebrity pastors.
Mhm.
Like, they would often be venerated more than, the person they're supposedly speaking for, which sounds suspiciously like idolatry that we were not supposed to do, but somehow it was okay in this situation because he was
Yeah.
anointed.
Yep.
Um, like, the circular logic that makes this whole thing stand up, is where it eventually started to fall apart for me. And I eventually one day said, "Okay, I gotta find the thing at the bottom of this.
Yeah.
If I can find the thing at the bottom of this, then I can figure out, is this thing actually remotely logical or not?" And what I eventually landed on was, okay, well, most of the arguments for ridiculous shit is because the Bible says, and the Bible can never be wrong.
Mhm.
Inerrancy, right?
Mhm.
So it's like, okay, well, if you can do away with inerrancy as a rational argument, then the whole house of cards falls because there's every appeal eventually leads back to that foundation stone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I could not find an argument for inerrancy that wasn't circular.
Yes.
Not a single one. Not a
Yes.
single one. It's inerrant because it says it's inerrant.
Mhm.
And even that's not true because that was a specific, these are specific citations of specific writings at specific times before there ever was a Bible. Um, and we glued all that stuff together and we now say, oh, this is talking about all of it, not just the thing that this particular writer was, you know, attributed to have said because we don't even know who wrote the damn things. We act
Correct.
like we do, but we
Mhm.
don't. And
And
so,
then,
and
of course, there's editors and there's translators and incorrect translations and mistranslations. And then there's stuff that's just like thrown in there by at politically convenient times. That is a thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
like the word homosexual.
Mhm.
Um, but then the other aspect of it that I'm like, it sounds like you were already gone by this point, but the rise of Trump
Yeah.
happened as I was already these foundations were starting to crumble. And it was
Mm.
the hypocrisy that led in that emerged from that of all the stuff that I watched y'all rail about Bill Clinton in the 90s
Yeah.
is all of a sudden okay because it's
Mm-hmm.
Trump
Yep.
and y'all want Trump. Because ultimately Trump was going to give them their judges, which they got. And
They
we've seen
did.
what that's
uh,
it hasn't been as bad as it could have been. Like those people
Surprisingly.
surprisingly
Yeah.
are some of them independent thinkers. They just they're so independent that they don't always land where you want them to, but they don't always land where the side that appointed them wanted to either. So some stuff hasn't gone completely off the rails, but yeah, like it was this notion that oh, character is the only thing that matters in the 90s to 2015, 2016. Oh, he's just a baby Christian. He doesn't really mean it's just locker room talk. They're just it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
All this stuff and I'm just like and it's coming out of the same mouths.
Yes.
Like these the people who were in power in the 90s and the people who are in power like they're roughly the same population and it's just like wait, hold on. Y'all said this and you didn't just say it like it wasn't a throwaway comment. Like you spent hours developing this argument and going on TV and blah, 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 just to like basically say, this man is not fit to lead because.
Yep.
And now this other man who exhibits all the same characteristics, but is actually not even trying to hide it, um, he's fine.
The thing that got me the most about all of this, because when I was growing up in these kinds of spaces, we weren't allowed to listen to secular music, right? We had to listen to Christian rock, right? We listened to really specific bands. They were pretty good. There's always this talk of like the crossover. They're gonna cross over to the secular world, right? And get too famous and like start singing about,
Like Third Eye
romantic
Blind.
relationships. Like Third Eye Blind. Oh yeah, that was a big one. Oh, they were so mad about that one. Um, so all that talk. And guess who is the worst of the worst at
Worst
that
of the worst.
time? Metallica, right? Marilyn Manson. Kid
Ah,
Rock.
good old Marilyn Manson.
Kid Rock. This is the thing that makes me the angriest. We're gonna pedestalize a guy that we condemned 20 years ago because he wasn't Christian enough for us. He's not suddenly Christian enough now. He
No,
was the
he's just
worst of the
American enough
worst.
now.
And
He
that was,
represents the American brand that is disgusting.
it
Um,
was such a betrayal of my culture to me, like the culture I grew up in. And it was like, now you're showing the truth. It has absolutely nothing to do with doing the right thing and everything to do with control of mass populations, particularly people who are growing up in those environments. I just want to control these populations so that we can do whatever we want. And I'm
exactly.
really angry about that. And so it took me, I did a major deconstruction in like 2012, 2013, 2014, where I unwound a lot of these questions. And most of them had to do with the way women are depicted in the Bible, because and now I know that, it was intentionally taken out. But these last 6 months or so has been really about like, what the heck? Huge betrayals of because the culture I grew up in is now the famous culture.
So
All of
what
the
was the thing
ideals.
that tipped you in the to do this second round?
I think it was, yeah, it's everything pretty much since January has really catapulted me into that, because they're playing out all of the fantasies that I'd been preached about as a
Mm,
kid. All of the fantasies, like overturning Roe v. Wade. We would go to the
yeah.
March for Life every year. We got school off for that day so we could go down to DC because it's not far from where I grew up. Go down to DC in March,
Oh, I didn't even think
which
about that.
which is it was awful. They would they would have posters of that protest. They would have when you're at that protest, they would have posters of, like, decapitated children. I'm not kidding you. It was
Yeah.
so bad
Well, there was this whole
visually.
thing. There was this whole I can't remember the people who were behind it, but, like, there was this whole thing of, we want to make abortion so disgustingly shocking
Yes.
that people can't go near it, not because of any logical argument, but because it's terrifying, and so therefore that's a thing that can't be allowed. So we're gonna paint it, and the thing is most of that propaganda was completely, like, manufactured. It wasn't actually
Yeah.
like, there's no abortion that looks the way they were depicting it.
It
Um
was so
Except in
gruesome.
the worst of the worst scenarios where it's actually not
Yes.
being done safely and ethically and blah, 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 blah.
And you only get there when it's illegal.
When it's illegal. When it's illegal.
So that was a big part of that, and all the fantasies around, sending people back where they came from was always talked about in my church.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, that was a thing. We actually always we cosplayed being, racially affirming pretty
Uh-huh.
well. Like, we had black people that attended our church.
I think we had, like,
Um,
6.
I mean, we this church had, like, at its height, at its biggest, it had 28,000 members. So, like,
That's a big church.
when
Yeah,
you're
you have to cosplay there.
28,000
Mhm.
people in a metro that's not that huge, you're gonna get a decent cross section of the population regardless.
Yeah.
Which that was interesting because I remember growing up, I remember when the first black person came to church,
Yep.
and that black woman was married to a white man, and that was a
Mm.
whole fucking thing.
Well, you also grew up in the Deep South too,
I mean,
right?
Virginia is kinda you're not the deep South, but, I mean,
We were so close to DC that we had a
a lot of the Civil War was fought
yeah,
there.
it's true. No, that's true.
I mean, I remember when I came up your way, like, it's just like, "Oh, there's fucking battlefields everywhere, Jesus."
Mhm. Oh, yeah.
Um, but, of course, I also grew up, like, I was obsessed with the Civil War,
Mhm.
and, of course, I'm a child, I have a very basic understanding of reality, and I'm like, "Well, who are the good guys and who are the bad guys?"
Right.
And of course, the Confederacy was the good
Right.
guys.
Right.
And so, like, I had that whole like, I ran around pretending to be a Confederate soldier all the time. I didn't know any
Right.
I was just playing war like little kids play war, but, um, the programming sticks with you.
Yeah.
All the
I was
programming sticks with
taught
you.
we don't know who was the bad guy in that scenario.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Equivocation, got it.
Mhm. You could see both
Um,
sides.
it wasn't about slavery, it was about states' rights.
That was said repeatedly in our textbooks growing up, yes.
Yeah.
Slavery was a side effect
Yeah, I
of
do
the
remember
many
slavery being
issues.
presented in this very, like, non-judgmental way, which actually I don't have a problem with presenting things in non-judgmental ways as long as you do
Generally.
it,
Do a deep dive.
in good
Mhm.
you do it in good faith. You
Yeah.
do it in good faith. In this case, it was not in good faith.
Mhm.
It was an attempt to normalize a concept that shouldn't be normalized.
Mhm.
The same thing that, they don't want us doing with homosexuality and transgender and everything else because if you normalize a thing, you lose control of that thing.
Mhm. That was another thing they fantasized about and we talked about repeatedly was all of the entire LGBTQ thing was not well, it wasn't as didn't have as many letters back then, but all of those concepts were like, "Uh-uh, uh-uh."
we had a federal marriage amendment rally at the church.
Oh, that's progressive.
Like, it was
That's
all
fun.
about um
Wait. To overturn
no,
to be
this was
like,
to get a federal marriage amendment declaring marriage to be between one man and one woman.
oh,
They
wow.
tried to do that in the early 2000s,
God.
and,
Never
like,
mind.
we had a simulcast broadcast from our church all over the US, that was led by, I mean, I wanna say one of the guys is actually one of Trump's closest advisors at some
Mhm.
point during his reign of terror.
Yeah.
But, like, yeah, like, they would put each state's, senators up on the screen and, like, "You need to call these people because 'cause they're not for it, and you need to call these
Yeah.
people and encourage them because they are for it." And, like, yeah, and I mean, the place was packed,
Yeah.
packed, like
Yeah.
8,000 people in a room that held 7,500.
Cool.
And it was it was one of those moments that I'm like, I'm caught up in it, but at the same time, I was like, "There's something weird here."
Yeah. Like, why do we care?
Well, yeah, like, that was and I was obsessed with libertarianism as a teenager
Mhm. Yep.
because I was always attracted to, like, the economic models because they were very simple, and I liked simple things.
Yeah.
I liked systems that explained behavior that was, like, very cut and dried. I grew up very, very obsessed with black and white thinking,
Mhm.
which is something that I can't even load into my brain anymore because 'cause
Yep.
I've completely just transcended black and white thinking.
Mhm.
Um, and, but I was always like, the thing that made libertarians attractive is like, "Oh, their economics make sense, but socially, it's like, do whatever you want."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, this is great. I love this." And so, yeah, I don't even remember why I got on the track about libertarianism. Um, it plugged into
Oh,
this somehow.
the amendment rally, marriage amendment rally.
Yeah, but I still don't remember. I still can't tell you how I got to libertarianism from that.
That's okay.
Um
But that was another fantasy that
Oh, I mean, I
they
just
were
this
always
yeah,
about
now I know,
too.
now I know, now I know. Because I had that thinking, I was like, "Why does the government have anything to do with marriage at all?" I was like,
Yeah.
Y'all talk about marriage as if it is this solemn spiritual covenant before God, and yet and if that's true, then it seems like God can regulate that just fine on his own through the church, so why do we need it to be regulated by the federal government?
Yep. Yep.
Um, and I started kinda, like, piecing that it's like, "Okay, well, okay, we've tied so much about being able to live and function in society to that definition of a family."
Yep.
So being able to, get medical insurance, being able to, in some when we bought this house, my wife and I weren't married yet, and state law in Mississippi, the the papers had to stay Matt Stein and Jillian Cantor, an unmarried person.
Wow.
All the official
Unmarried.
paperwork from when we bought this
Wow.
house says that on it because
That's crazy.
you're not supposed to be buying property with someone of the opposite sex that you're not married to, that's weird. But they can't, like, actually prohibit that, so they bring a shame label into it
Unmarried. That's so
just to make it
shameful.
clear that we don't actually condone this, but we can't stop it either. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, like, so all of these things, and, the one thing that I eventually, like, couldn't fully reconcile was like, okay, well, um, the church can say homosexuality is immoral, fine. Let them do what they wanna do. Um, we'll get rid of all the laws. And then there was the question of adoption.
Mm,
It's like, well, what should the government allow gay people to adopt? And that was the part where I'm just like, "Okay, this is too fucking tied up together." Like, this is I can't untangle this because you have to be able to protect children from something that's evil,
right.
if you're going to take them against their will and assign them to new parents,
Yeah.
right? Um, and I could not find a situation. It's like, okay, well, it's okay for if the church is right, this can't happen. But I'm just not convinced the church is right.
Yeah.
And so I would just like, well, maybe this whole shenanigans is bullshit. Like it was these little cracks in the foundation that
Mhm.
eventually enough of those cracks got kicked into it that it's like, oh, that it all started to crumble for me. But it was over, I had to get a lot of those.
Yeah. 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 I mean, it takes a little bit of once you start unraveling though, everything you start to see is connected.
But then you start to hook to it. At least you start to hold on to it for non-rational reasons,
Well, for sure, because it's like
like
my whole life I've
community.
been wrong and I'll lose my family.
Community
Mhm.
and, like, your whole like, my whole social sphere was tied up in it,
Yep.
and then when my kids started going to the Christian school, my whole social sphere got tied up in that because,
Yep.
well, you're too busy doing all the shit with your kids to be social with anybody else other than their parents,
Yeah.
right? Um, and so once we like, I have no social sphere here, anymore because I've disconnected from all of those institutions that social stuff had just kinda built up into, because I don't work here, and I
Right.
don't go to church here, and I don't have kids in school here, and I was just like, I'm just here, um,
Yep.
hang out with her friends. Um, but, uh but yeah, like, for me, my whole identity was tied up in Christianity.
And that's why I'm so grateful that I put a pin in it from the time that I was in high school. Because if I had been inundated as an adult, I wouldn't know how to extricate myself from that. I just wouldn't
Um,
know. It's really hard.
I don't disagree because it was really hard.
Yeah.
It was really, really fucking hard. Had I never started traveling for work and getting out of this echo chamber
Yeah.
and being around all the people that were supposedly evil and discovering that they're actually a lot better people than the people who are telling me they're evil,
Mm. Yep.
and having those people, be more caring toward me and kind and understanding and accepting than and yeah, that also started like, had I not had that other influence, um and ultimately, like, over time, I started to live as a different person when I was on the road
Yeah.
because all of a sudden, all those things that I had to mask that were, you know, definitely me, they were
Yeah.
always me, but they weren't acceptable.
Mhm.
Um, all of a sudden I could be and think and talk about and enjoy all of those things, and that was the thing that made it possible to leave because I had this natural outlet that kinda rescued me from it on a regular basis. Um,
This is why the key to all of it has always been when you get into a church, they want you to never be like, well, not any church, but these types of environments. They don't want you to be exposed to other people. So everybody else is evil and wrong and bad unless they're inside of this church. Because once you start getting exposed to people who are not of the same mind, then you start to go, okay, this person is not evil and bad and terrible. Maybe the church is wrong. And that's the scariest thing, I think, for them is they
And
no
then so
longer
when you
have
bring
you.
that doubt up in the church environment, you are immediately swatted because, your doubting is having questions is not okay. Are you questioning God? And that's a scary question if it's the first time you've been, confronted that way.
Especially because there was always a threat of the unforgivable sin, blasphemy
Oh,
of the
right,
Holy
which was
Spirit, which
completely
no one can
undefined.
define.
Completely undefined, so you don't fucking know if you've done it.
Yeah.
Um, and then people be like, "Well, if you're worried about having done it, then you haven't done it." Like, there all
What a
these
weird.
like, real Christians don't worry about having committed the or they real you're always will being worried about being sinful was the thing that was always a part of it. Like, that was the 8,000 pound, like, burden that I toted around all the time was I can't allow myself to sin. Um, which, has this very strange quality of when all you're concerned about is not sinning, all you want to do is sin. But when all of a sudden you don't care about it anymore, you also lose interest in all those things that you were because it was the forbidding of it and the fear that if you engaged in whatever that behavior or thought, and it was thoughts primarily, like, wasn't that you actually did something to somebody, it was that you thought a bad thought, and you had to take that thought captive to the obedience of Christ. And, like, you had to do all like, we were taught spiritual warfare. And I was, like, doing spiritual warfare constantly.
Oh yeah.
It's like if I was obsessed with, it's like if it's like if I was saging myself every 5 minutes,
Hmm.
except I was doing that in my head,
It's a lot
constantly
of
praying, like,
anxiety.
"Don't
That's a lot of energy
did I look
spent.
at that woman with lust? Oh
Mm.
my god."
Hmm.
It got to the point where I would not actually make eye contact with women
Yep.
because I was so terrified of looking at them because if I look at them the wrong way, then I'm sinning.
Uh-huh.
And, like, I was mentally unwell
Yeah.
many, many times because I was so terrified, and then when I would inevitably catch myself in a behavior that was then I would get extremely depressed, and I would start
Yeah.
beating myself up and ridiculing myself and telling myself how horrible I am, and of course, the preachers would agree with you.
Of
Like, "Yeah,
course.
you have nothing good in you, and the only thing good in you is Jesus, and if you
Yep.
don't have Jesus, you're all bad." So yeah, like, that was my programming as a young adult.
Yeah.
Through my 20s and early 30s, that was my programming, and I was miserable,
Hmm.
but then I was also having to pretend to not be miserable, and it
Because
was just exhausting.
yeah,
It was
that is
exhausting.
exhausting.
Um, and I hear these same exact stories from countless people
Yeah.
who have been through the exact same, or similar programming. Um, and it never turns out to be the people who are, the people who are actually doing the controlling and doing the bad behaviors behind closed doors. They don't have any of this anxiety. It's only the people who are actually conscientious and care
Yep.
that are rolling around in this anxiety because we believed what you said.
Yep.
and we internalized it and made it part of us, and now, like, I don't know, there's still stuff that I'm untangling, like
Yeah.
you.
And the
Um,
gaslighting, because then you confront people with this and say, "Why did you tell me this? It doesn't actually go with this and that." Well, I never told you to do that. You
right,
took it that
yeah,
way.
right, right. Yeah, I didn't even think about the gaslighting.
Mhm. So it just feel a lot of times for a lot of people, it just there's just a lot of lack of sense of safety, but there's no safety outside either because there's this created barrier of evil is over there outside of this little terrifying bubble.
Right.
But and I know for sure that not everyone has had this kind of experience. I think that specific types of churches do tend to do this kind of stuff, but I think that it's a common experience.
Oh, yeah. I I I I know for a fact that there are people even in the places that I was, who were genuinely people of good heart and good
Yeah.
faith and kind people, and somehow they were able to see those things and it not turn them into part of the machine.
Mhm.
Um, and ultimately, I don't know how that works. I don't know how that works and why the way it works, but it seems to be true. Um, but then I just remember being taught by so many people who either they're incredibly good actors or they truly believed every word of all of it,
Mhm.
and they lived as if that was true, and
And it
those were
worked
the
for them.
people that I idolized. Those were the people that I wanted to emulate because I wanted to be a serious Christian. I wanted to be, like, the best Christian, right? Um, which really, if you, again, understand Christianity from trying to study it for what it is, ambition is not part of it. There Christianity and capitalist, Protestant work ethic, all of that stuff has gotten so intertwined, especially in America, that it's hard to see them without each other. Of course, the Christian nationalism, like I used to be a relatively patriotic person until that became the key signature of being part of this whatever. Um, and now when I see expressions of patriotism, I have a different kind of programming that's hard to fight through, which is that, oh, they're flying an American flag, they must be on the wrong side. Like, the flag itself is triggery for me.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
has been for years now.
Yeah.
And that's probably not good either.
Right.
That's why this is so hard. Because if as soon as you take the nuance out of any of this, you end up going the wrong direction,
Mhm.
left or right, up or down.
It's so tricky because I think that growing up and being in that environment for so long, there was an association with the American flag and with the church
Oh,
and
yeah.
with the military. They put people who were in the military up on a pedestal in
Oh,
a lot of
military
ways.
worship, absolutely.
Yeah, and so it was like, we are Republican, Christian, patriotic, love the military. Like, they all go hand in hand, and that is, like, the required only good truth, and anyone who's outside of that. Oh, and capitalist. Everything was about capital. I can't believe that they would tax us. I da 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 da. Reaganomics was, like, they were obsessed with that, right?
Uh-huh.
All of this stuff, and, like, people who have to work, people who, complaining about people who don't work hard and get welfare. Like all of this was core principles to what I grew up in. And on top of that, the other fantasy that I haven't even brought up yet was bringing on the end of the world, bringing on the end
Oh, right.
times.
All right.
This was and not necessarily in
Isn't the
the active
rapture, like,
stance.
this month?
Oh my god. Don't even
Like, isn't it, like,
get
in a
me
few
started
days
on
or
the rapture.
something? Like,
They Well, I thought it was supposed to be in September, right? No.
yeah, but no, they've
Look,
got a new there's a new one,
they've
I
got a
think.
new date
I
for
think
the
there's an
rapture.
April one. I think there's an April rapture. I think they have to do it in shifts. Like, they can only call so many people up to heaven at once. So, like, it's otherwise it gets clogged.
Against the pipeline. So all of the like end times rhetoric is actually just fanfic from the 1800s.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Good old John Nelson Darby, thank you so much.
Yes, but the sad, unfortunate thing is that people have staked their lives on believing that the prediction is correct, and that that hurts my heart a little because it's like the people are being actively lied to and they're taking big actions with their lives on something that somebody's just making up, and that's really sad.
Yep.
But
Yep.
yeah, there's no actual biblical reference to the rapture or any of that stuff. So that's been a big part of my deconstruction too, is like when people are like, I'm so sad that the rapture didn't happen back in September. I was like, what?
I was so
What?
obsessed with that shit.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
read
Well,
all
I
I
read the
read
whole behind
all the
series.
Left Behind
All of
series,
them.
like, I was obsessed, and then, of course, this was post 9/11,
Mhm.
everybody went back to church, and then, like, they did a whole, I think the guy who was pastor then, I think he did, like, a 6-month sermon series on the Book
Mhm.
of Revelation,
Yep.
and I remember the only one that sticks in my mind is the one where he spent a whole sermon talking about numerology.
Of
But he
course he
didn't
did.
call it. Like, he was talking,
Mhm.
I mean, it was literally the whole thing was, like, Kabbalistic numerology, um, but couched as, coming straight out of the King James Bible, except you couldn't find it anywhere. He just knew, I
Mhm.
guess, somehow from on high that
Mhm.
this was true. Bullshit. You read some occult books and you just,
Mhm.
but, um yeah, that end times was big, big business in the early 2000s.
Yeah, man.
And then it seemed to get pretty quiet until, the recent, you know, uh, evangelical coming out party that has been the last 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. So we have lots of things to unpack
So much stuff to talk about.
over the course of this little Rewired podcast, and this is only one of the things that we're gonna talk about. Um,
Mhm. Buckle up, guys.
so yeah, and as it turns out, we've been going for an hour and 15 minutes, and we were gonna try to do 2 episodes today, but I don't think that's gonna
I don't
happen.
think that's happening.
But that's alright. That's alright. That's alright because we've got 1 good solid episode because this has been a great conversation.
Yeah. So that's our lives. That's how we grew up. And that's probably what we're gonna talk about. Yeah, like you said, among other things. But there's a lot of big tidbits that I just get so about, and people need to know it's not all everything. This doesn't work. This just does not work. It does
No,
not
it does
add
not
up,
work.
and it doesn't make sense for one person or for the population. So people just need
But
to know.
also, if you are a deeply spiritual person, there is so much
Yes.
available that does not require you to be a part of this particular. narrative. And that was the
Mm.
thing that honestly was the biggest encouragement to me was, when I left, I basically put spirituality on the shelf
Yeah.
for several years. Like I wasn't against it. I wasn't for it. It just was not there. And that was okay for a while until really like traumatic shit started happening in my life again. And I realized that, oh, yeah, I kind of still need that spiritual component to my life.
Yeah.
But I didn't know anywhere else to get it. Like, I didn't know that there was a world beyond Christianity that was accessible to me and that
Yeah.
would be meaningful to me. And ultimately, it was when I fell into the very diverse, broad world that we call, witchcraft and the occult, that it's like, oh, I can be so spiritual,
Mhm.
um, and yet not have all this deeply problematic stuff. And I also can be so spiritual and yet retain personal sovereignty.
Yeah.
And I can set my own ethical code and morals, and like I don't have to have an outside authority telling me what's okay and what's not okay, but still get so you can have all of the stuff that you want without the bad stuff. And I think that's just as important part of this story, um
Yep.
as the dangers, because I thought that once you deconstructed that there was not really a reconstruction for a while. Like there was like you
Yeah.
deconstructed and now you're an atheist. And some people
Right.
go down that path and that's fine. Like I'm not criticizing those people. If that's what works for them, awesome. But I thought that was the only option,
Yeah. It was
and
actually
it's
a
not.
Bible verse that got me to the place of looking for spirituality elsewhere. Because one of the things that I'll talk about a lot is how the brain works. 'Cause I have some background in that. The hippocampus will not even let you see something that's right in front of your face if it is a gatekeeper.
Mm,
And you have to have that little crack, like you said, in order to even see options, see opportunity on the other side of something. And the thing that was that crack, that biggest crack for me actually came from a sermon when I was trying to get back into church as an adult. And the pastor had done a series on wisdom. And this is the very first of a four-part series on wisdom. And I was like, oh, this is the only thing that I needed from this. And he quoted Proverbs. I forget what the chapter is, but the verse is 20. For some reason, I remember that part, but it says, "Wisdom is crying out in the streets.
mm,
She she is screaming from the in the marketplace. She is screaming from the rooftops, and you just don't see her." And I was like, first of all, wisdom's a female? Like, why are we not talking about that enough? And second of all, it gave me full permission to go and trust my own discernment, and trust my own conversations with the divine and find the wisdom that I needed, and that not everybody's going to need the same thing that I needed. And it's okay for me to find something that someone else doesn't find valuable, and
mm.
that's okay. So that's how I got there.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. See, we don't need no stinking script.
That's right. Of course, I don't think I could do a script. Ew.
Um, I don't know. Like I used to when I was doing interview podcasts, I had this need to be more organized because I was like I wanted to like actually be a genuine interviewer. Um,
Mhm.
I don't think I'm very good at that.
I
Like
love
like, I
interviews.
am I am here to be in dialogue,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
I'm here to talk as much as my guest talks. Um, Maybe I also like to hear the sound of my own voice, I don't know. But yeah, like, I got even more evidence that we can have a conversation and need very little guidance even to, like, wrap it up correctly, which I feel
I
like
love
we
it.
just did.
I think we did.
Awesome. Cool. So shall we wrap this one?
That sounds good.
Awesome. Well, we got much more to come, y'all. Much more. Stay tuned.
Absolutely. See ya.
Laters.